the computer. It's wonderful, but yet, you know, it's educational, but it's not extremely natural to spend all your time looking at a screen all day.
Yeah, I wish. Let's go back to Roger. What is his situation? When does he come up for trial? What can people do, if anything? I mean, are they just going to railroad this? I mean, I can't imagine that he was doing a church and importing or exporting any large quantities of marijuana.
No, this is all very small amount of personal use sales that any rookie narcotics officer on the Gila Police Department could have run this on Roger in 2 weeks. They brought in and spent, well, we don't know how many millions they spent on Roger. And to what? To silence one man's voice. So you can understand that this man's voice is a very strong voice. Now, when he went on your show and other radio shows and started ordaining people on the mainland, that's when they put the foot down on him. They ran a 2-year investigation. You know, every police officer knows Roger in the whole state, let alone the Big Island. So, you know, he's the most gentlemanly person, the most respectful of law enforcement, as am I. You know, I had a 7-year relationship with the vice commander on Maui. And so it's possible in Hawaii because they are so inundated with hard drugs because of the helicopters removing the cheaply, you know, available cannabis that the people really wanted.
It's almost strange. It seems like when I have somebody own my radio show, they get, suddenly there's a case against them. Roger Christie was arrested right after coming on my show. Edgar Steele was arrested shortly after coming on my show. And
well, I hope I don't make that threes.
I hope not too. I hope not too.
But I do want to say to your audience, Clayton, if my voice does come through, and I'm sorry if the connection isn't perfect.
It's fine now.
But yeah, I do want to say that you have to remain strong and vigilant, and that this is what Christ calls us to do. And so, you know, Christ wasn't afraid for himself, and neither is Roger. And as he sits in jail, he is the most loving, positive person I've ever met in my life. He's my brother. I love him. And all your audience can just say a prayer, and that's the greatest thing you can do. Of course, they could go to the website, and he has, you know, Roger Christie, Google him there. He has his friends in Hawaiian Islands. You can send them money. You know, he comes from a very wealthy family, and yet the family is not helping Roger at this time, which is my job. I think I have to. The mother would help, but she's in a senile position now, and the brothers, unfortunately, you know, I just don't understand their position, because Roger has been so famous for so many years and has been doing this relentlessly with the police allowing him to do this for 10 years, that this unfortunately comes from Obama being a fellow Hawaiian, and he just, you know, as much as he said going into office he was going to change and allow medical, and he was going to stop the drug, you know, the drug war is a big failure, but now we see once you get the presidency and when you're told what to do by whoever tells the president how to act, well, Clayton, you can tell your audience who you think that is that tells the president what he must do, because I don't think the president is the president anymore of the United States.
The banksters have always controlled the presidency. They controlled Wilson, they controlled Roosevelt, they controlled everybody but Kennedy and Lincoln, and they killed them.
Yeah, so, you know, I'm sure that Obama wants to stay alive, and so there's a few things I guess he has to do, which is one of them, they got to continue that CIA bringing in the drugs, from Afghanistan, from, over in this part of the world for years. They brought in from Laos. They had the largest Air America. They make silly movies about it, but it was a very serious thing, bringing in billions of dollars of heroin and addicting people, mostly in the inner city, mostly poor black people and Hispanics, to narcotics that are being run by the CIA.
The CIA and the Mossad brought all of the cocaine from Colombia into Panama under Operation Watchtower. That's a part of my book, Mystery Babylon. I've got the whole Colonel Edward P. Cotolo. He exposed all of that. They brought in over 100 plane loads of cocaine. They destroyed the Median cartel, but they replaced it with the Banksters and the Cali cartel.
I wouldn't doubt any of what you say, and now that Proposition 19 and President Santos in Colombia and even Calderon to some degree in Mexico have said, well, if California legalizes marijuana, that makes the drug war sort of a moot point. We might as well. And so the Asian implications of Proposition 19, there's a good chance I'll be able to open a medical dispensary if all adults in California are allowed to smoke cannabis. Why wouldn't the because the Khmer government is being bribed by American aid. They're poor government. They don't have a lot of money, and they rely on aid from around the world. And the aid says you can't have marijuana. And so this was a tradition that's still in villages in Cambodia. You grow it, you actually feed it to the chickens and the pigs when you take them to the market. So they're sort of happy when they get slaughtered. They're all sort of, eat the seeds, but around the seed is the marijuana part of the plant from the bud of the female, and that gets the animals. They all have receptor sites for cannabis. All animals have marijuana in their brain and receptors in their brain and their body and their immune system. So now the science that used to say it killed brain cells and fried your brain, that was just a complete lie. But the government had to do scientific research. Eventually they allowed it. And what it proved was exactly the opposite of what the government was saying, that it's the most safe and best thing you can do to heal yourself. So the LEAP officer that has his horse out there, Woodbridge, who's a great ex-police officer in California with a beautiful horse, Misty, and he's saying legalize cannabis, vote Prop. And the horse is a little sick, and he has to end his sojourn there a little early. And I told him on the Facebook, give that animal a little bit of cannabis, from one of your friends there. Let some of that horse eat a little bit of cannabis, and that horse will pick right up and become well again, because that immune system inside the horse, well, that was the medicine. Jack, in his book in 1937, almost all the animal medicine was cannabis, and half of the human medicine was cannabis indica.
Well, we're almost out of time here. Do you plan on coming back to this country anytime? Or are you just are you going to when we find out what's happening with Roger? And there's another gentleman that published a hemp magazine up in Canada, and he's been arrested too.
Well, that's Mark Emery, and my students in critical thinking write him letters along with another guy named Eddie Lepp, who grew medical marijuana and is in federal prison. So there's three of them. Eddie and Mark Emery, who's very famous, the Prince of Pot, and Roger Christie. And our prayers go out to all three of those men who are illegally being held. Anybody for cannabis crimes. It is not a crime. And no, I will not be coming back to the United States. But if Roger asks me to come back to help him in the defense of his trial, I will go back to Hawaii, where I am off of probation now after, I did get arrested, the medical marijuana club I had finally in Maui. But so that's why I went into exile. And I do love the United States as a wonderful country, but it's been taken over by thugs. And we have to take the country back for the good Christian moral people that love and have the love of Jesus in their heart. And I know there's enough good people that we can turn around in the United States someday.
I hope so. It's interesting that people, even so-called patriots, try to silence me keep me from talking about the advantages of cannabis?
Well, there's a great fear. There's something, that, has been put in through there's a great fear of authority, and authority has really been out to get cannabis. It's like worse than murder.